Welcome to the Fence Show. This is Pete Fickinger, and I'd like to welcome you to the Active Yards edition. With today's guests, we have Eric Collins and Earl Collins of Dennisville Fence. Thanks for coming today.
Good to be here.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having us, Pete.
We have a lot that you're welcome. Thanks for taking the time. We have a live audience. Audience, want to introduce yourselves? Yeah. So we have a rare opportunity to have a live audience. Last week I did this show in California, and I did it, in front of a forklift driver and a bunch of people driving by because it was in the parking lot of the show, of the fence company. So today we're in a makeshift studio in Galloway, New Jersey. So very excited about having you guys here. I know a lot of people in the Active Yards world know you two, know of your history and your legacy, and I just want to have some fun today and get to know you guys because I've been a fan for almost 18 years now. So I've chronicled. I could write your book now, actually, I think. But I'll pretend I don't know the answers. And hopefully we'll find something today. So real fun. So first thing, Eric and Earl, which one's older?
I'm older.
Are you?
Yeah.
And by years and years, or 2 or 3?
My birthday was a couple weeks ago, so I just turned 43.
I just turned 40. So.
Oh, okay. So you guys are close.
Yeah, 3 years.
Oh, okay, great. And were you both in the fence business from day one? Like we're going to talk a little about the history, but just in general, were you both this is all you've ever done your whole life?
I mean, growing up, I worked with my dad in the summertime when I was old enough to do, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I had other little jobs and things like that. And
as you grew up, yeah. I would ask you about that in a second. But when did the year? When you guys started around 10 years old, just in the backyard. I saw the reason why I asked the questions. I saw a picture a couple weeks ago of the two of you guys on a fence truck back when you were 7 and 8 or 7 and 9, based on what you just told me, 7 and 10.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool to see. So why don't we talk about Dennisville Fence, because I think it's a great story of family and generational legacy and all that stuff. So when did the company start? I know, when you tell a little background, maybe whoever would become more comfortable, who started it, what company was first? I know you have 2 companies. Go ahead.
Our grandfather started Collins Iron Works in 1942.
Wow.
In Wildwood, New Jersey. They did a lot of wrought iron railing, a lot of TV antenna towers.
No kidding.
And it just kind of matriculated into chain link fencing. Was less expensive than wrought iron steel, getting custom welded. He left Wildwood, New Jersey, went to the Villas, late 50s?
Somewhere around there.
Yeah. Started doing a little bit more chain link. Our dad got out of the service early 70s.
Fair enough.
Sure.
Give or take.
He jumped on board. My grandfather approached him one day and said, "Hey, we're going to retire, and you're going to buy the company from us." So my dad said, "Okay."
Yeah, that was around 1980.
Yeah.
So did your grandfather? He didn't retire very early. He retired at probably 60 or 65 or so, right?
Yeah, mid 60s at the latest.
Yep.
Yeah, he lived on much longer than that, but he definitely had a long retirement, that's for sure.
So Villas was Collins Iron Works, which specialized in the industrial and the chain link and,
correct,
like you said, all that stuff. And then when did Dennisville show up, and was Dennisville Fence in the other location? Was that right off the bat a wood fence company to differentiate? How was the history of Dennisville merging, and when did that happen?
I'll take that one. So our father, after doing a long-term buyout with my grandfather, basically to fund his retirement, he bought Dennisville Fence Company, say mid-80s, 85, somewhere around there.
So it was an existing company that you bought?
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, for sure.
This is why we ask questions.
As a matter of fact, the property that it's on now was an old cedar mill dating back to early 1900s.
Wow.
With the cedar, they used to up the timbers from the swamps, and they would make cedar mud shakes with them, and they put them on roofs and siding. And then also there was a big industry as far as making ships in Dennisville, like sailing boats and things like that. So that mill, when my dad bought it, it had a 4-foot saw blade, the mill tracks and everything like that, which obviously it's not there anymore, but Yeah, it's legit. It's been around for a long
That's
time.
awesome. I didn't. Was it a fence company right before that? So for a few years before?
I think it just kind of transitioned into a fence company.
Yeah.
And then, my dad bought it from this guy who turned around and opened up another fence company 5 years ago, or 5 years after.
As they often do.
Yeah.
61 months later.
Yeah. But they since closed. But yeah, and then, so my dad had that, and, I guess I got out of the U.S. Navy in like 98, and then me and Eric kind of took it from there in like the early 2000s.
So was Dennisville at that point kind of like a cedar, the wood business, and Collins was the chain link business, or they both
Pretty
do both?
much.
Okay, yeah.
And they ran it as two different companies.
Oh, okay.
So then we decided, down the road to kind of just make it one brand name.
Yeah.
And just keep it as one company, because it was just much easier that way.
Well, it evolved, especially when you went into the story of the evolution of primarily chain link, then primarily wood, and then primarily vinyl, I guess, right? That's kind of the history, if you think about it in a nutshell. Chain link, wood, vinyl.
Yeah. And with the wood business, it was further north from southern Cape May, and it pulled a more northern customer base. Yeah. So it was good in that respect too.
So for those watching or listening, Dennisville Fence is located in the southern peninsula of New Jersey, Cape May County, which is in the far, if you look on a map, it's as far south as you can go. And you have both locations down there. So Villas is right by the very point, and then Dennisville is 20 miles. I know that because I ride my bike up that road. Yeah. It's 20 miles. I think it's about 20 miles from point to point. Yeah. So now, as far as your involvement in it, what I've noticed about your company over the years, and when we got involved with each other back in 2001, when we met at, remember where we met?
Yeah.
Where was this? Yeah, at San Antonio, Texas, and the fence, the AFA Fence Tech back then.
There's a lot of people that met at that.
We all met at that show. Yeah. There was this real big bar or something, but that was a great experience. But I remember when I met you, you were really excited about. It's almost like you were starting to get an indication from possibly, so I'm reading into it, from your father that you guys are starting to get opportunity to start thinking for yourselves, kind of like, or maybe developing your own ideas. Yeah. Because you definitely were like, you owned a fence company, but you were acting like you just started one. If I remember, you remember that?
Yeah.
So up to 2001, what was your experience in vinyl fence and railing? Because I know you guys now are like major players in vinyl fence and railing. But up until 2000, up to that show, what have you done? What did you do?
Pretty much Buff Tech, right?
Buff Tech, we outsourced some stuff from Canada, some like weird channel linears.
Oh yeah.
The wood guy.
It was a chore.
Yeah. So you weren't doing much with vinyl until 2001. So it was nothing like, it wasn't like you already were somebody and then you met us and then you kind of started at the same time with us.
That was about the time we got our first Pro 200, and then we started routing our own materials and fabricating, legitimately fabricating.
I mean, honestly, it was too expensive.
Yeah.
From certainty distribution, I mean, the sections were ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, not fabricating. Yeah. So 2001. So you went to the fence show. You came back. I remember because you came back. You joined the company I'd been with at the time with Crane, which was Maximum Vinyl, which was really fun. And you were one of the first retail fabricators in that whole network. And then you went on to be an extraordinary fabricator partner with that company. So how did vinyl grow? Like if you think back at it now, is it just crazy? Like what happened in your area, especially from 2001 to today?
Yeah, it's tremendous.
Yeah,
and I mean it's the area, it's the coastal area, and our area, thankfully, there's pretty wealthy people there.
Well, but do you remember though? The reason why I'm asking these questions, if you go to a beach community, vinyl fence is much more prolific. You'll see it everywhere. For those of you who don't live on a shore town like we have here on the Jersey Shore, and it's not just the fencing, but it was the railing that got crazy over the past 20 years. And if you drive down any road along the coast, it's white vinyl left and right, and it's a lot of people watching the show today. 1 out of every 20 jobs is vinyl. So this is like considered vinyl playland, or it's a land of milk and honey for vinyl. But my question is it had to start somewhere. I mean, there had to be a day when you guys made a decision that when you were going to answer somebody's request for a fence in their backyard, that you said, hey, we got this new thing we're really excited about? Because you probably weren't doing that up until you bought your own router and fabricated.
No, if anything, we probably push it away.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Sell what we were making the most
But
money.
do you remember like those days of when you had to like light people's fire, or at least get your salespeople to light their fire because you guys did develop the market, whether you know it or not. It was like it just happened.
It just happened. I mean,
I know, but you contributed to it.
We were there at the right place at the right time.
Right place, right time,
Yeah.
right provider. You guys had a great brochure, whether you know it or not at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
That was a
It
big-
Oh, I know.
Maximum
Yeah.
brochure.
Yeah.
You know, and our salesman, which was one of my dad's buddies that sold insurance, and he did sales for us on the side.
Right.
And our
And then
mom and
us.
dad, and us as we developed, as we got our driver's licenses, we became salesmen.
Yeah.
You know?
Estimates on Saturdays.
Yeah. $10 a piece.
Yeah.
No percentage.
But I think when vinyl that's funny. When vinyl was starting to get more mature, it's a good business plan if you got a bunch of sons. Now you know why the Amish are in the fence business. But in your case, though, you know, you did market evolution and you didn't even know it, because your supply chain, if I remember, you started matching how you were getting vinyl to how you were getting cedar.
Right.
And so cedar came in truckloads, and then you modified it, fabricated it, nailed it up, and installed it. And then then vinyl, you started doing it the same way.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then bing, bang, boom, and next thing you know, you have a market.
And also, too, to take it one step further, a lot of the flow in the beginning of vinyl was 6-foot sections.
Yeah.
And we found that we could install more faster if they were 8-foot sections. So we went kind of like the high road and said, hey, we're just going to put aluminum extrusion into it. And at the time it was $6, it might be $12 now, whatever it is. So we put the aluminum extrusion in it to A, make it faster, B, set us aside, because we have a direct competitor within that territory that only offered 6-foot sections.
Yeah.
So if you're replacing wood fence for vinyl fence, mathematically it's almost the same because it's 8 foot.
Yeah.
You know, and it just makes it easier for material sales, makes it easier for the end user, for the installer. Plus it's, you know, aesthetically almost the same.
Yeah.
You know, with much less maintenance, obviously, I don't have to tell you. But.
No, absolutely. And so vinyl railing, you guys are, out of all the fence companies in the country, you know, there's you know, you're in the top 10 in terms of like commitment to fabricating, installing, and selling vinyl railing. So when did you realize that you had a niche in vinyl railing?
Can I go first and then hand it off?
Yeah, I'd love it.
If there was a horse and it was dead, my brother probably had to beat it for 2 years before my dad would even think about selling railing. Even though it's the same rails, it's the same profiles, it's just a different package and it's a different, you know, it's a different nomenclature.
Yeah.
To Earl, it's all the same. To me, it took me a while to figure out that it is all the same. But then my dad, he was like, no, it's on the house. We're not getting into it. It's technical. It's this, it's that. Once he cracked the code with my dad, and I don't know how you did it, it just blew wide open. I mean,
It's amazing because that's most fence companies in the country, when they talk about railing, that's exactly, your dad is them because they really feel it's some foreign object.
Yeah.
So then what happened? So he cracked the code?
So we ended up, you know, getting an aluminum supplier. We started figuring out how we can make have brackets from different manufacturers around the country, and we kind of tailored our own system based on what was already there, which were, I think, like Royal Crown profiles or something. And that company had a really strong hold in the marketplace. And then we had decided to basically kind of mimic it, and we had a connection with one of the large builders around that was doing a ton of vinyl railing. Every one of their houses had it on there, and you know, we're going back 15 years or so, and that kind of started with the railing. We got connected to this builder, and they just came in and bought supplies, you know, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 at a clip, and I'm like,
And you weren't even installing that, you were
No.
selling that.
Correct.
And did you, now I remember like 2004, maybe 2005, 2004-05, I needed 10 sections of T-rail aluminum or T-rail vinyl for my deck. And the coolest thing that you guys did that no one else could do was I was able to put all my posts in and then call in my measurements to
Right.
you. And then you made me exactly whatever I needed for my spacing. Some were 6.5, some were 7, some were
Right.
8s. And that was 2004-05.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that went on to be a fairly big competitive advantage to you over the years because the other guys weren't able to do that.
They weren't, and just by being able to do all that and learn throughout the whole process, we decided to say, hey, why don't we just have it ready to go and like
Then you became that way, yeah.
And then people just started to come, and they just kept, and it worked out real well. And it was always like because we ended up doing a lot of new construction projects, and it got to a point where not only did they need a fence, they also needed railing. So for us, it was just an untapped market that we had to go after.
So of all your railing revenue today, which I know you guys do quite a bit for a fence company, of course, whether what would be percentage between over-the-counter sales, including contractors, versus installed jobs for railing today?
I'd say probably 60-40, 60 sales, 40 installs.
Wow.
We saw a lot of railing.
That's awesome. So that was like, and that probably was the first real big thing you did on the material sales side, and maybe fencing over the past couple of years with us, reminding you every day to do it. You slowly started selling fence, right?
It all kind of went together.
Yeah, it did.
It really did.
Well, the timing of the other thing that was interesting about what they had done, and you could talk about this next, is you guys had an opportunity, about 8 years ago, maybe 6, 7 years ago, to buy a piece of property. Let me tell a little bit of that story because I love that, because I was riding my bike by that one a couple weeks ago too, and I was like looking at it saying, I remember when this was just an idea that Earl and Eric had, and now I'm driving by and it looked like a lumber yard.
Go ahead.
47.
We have a contractor that we still do. He's in our shop every other day.
Coincidentally, it was the first guy we started selling railing to that home builder.
Oh, no kidding.
So through the years, he bought his own property. He had a small green machine from CMM. His demand for installs got so much that he didn't want to build it anymore, and he didn't want to have to depend on anybody else to build it. So he just hit the point one day about 8-9 years ago, and he came to us and said, hey, I have this property. I'll sell you the property, I'll sell you the router, I'll sell you the business, I'll sell you everything.
And he obviously became good friends over the years too.
Yeah, and he's a great guy. He really is. He's a great guy. So we took advantage of the situation. We purchased the property. We did a little bit of housekeeping on the inside, not much. Put a fence up, put some inventory out front, and it's been nothing but a blessing to us, knowing that we can now run a satellite office within reach to where we can get to. But now what we did was, in the winter times, because we're so seasonal, what we did was we set up an actual shop in there, so we have a consistent person. He's doing customer service, but if nobody's there, he's got a function to do. We ran out of room at our 1 yard in Dennisville, which is where originally we were doing the cedar fabrication.
Where the wood mill was.
Right, where the wood mill was, which is now our vinyl fence fabrication facility in our chain link.
Also, 47, this new location is where you do all your wood now.
All of it.
Oh, no kidding.
We ended up moving
All of
it.
it.
That's probably why I looked even busier than I remembered it. But so the interesting story about that is that this location also is only a mile from your other location, 1.5 miles,
Correct.
2 miles from the north. And the other location was kind of in a little tucked away area in a small little town that nobody would ever go to unless you had a reason to be there.
Right.
But when you opened up this opportunity, it was on a very busy road, especially in the summer. And so what I always was excited about for you guys is that you had now this beautiful physical presence right on the main road. And people have heard about your company for years, but no one ever saw you. I drove by your place with my in-laws for 35 years. Everybody knew Dennisville Fence, but nobody ever saw Dennisville Fence. Right. We saw your sign in the marsh that you had for many, many years, So I imagine that by having that, it's literally, for the average consumer, it was like, oh, look, they finally got a new place or something like that.
Or they finally got a store.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, people did say that to me too. They're like, oh, I see you finally got a store. I'm like, well, actually, we already had two, but
Well, it's interesting.
They didn't know.
The reason why I think it's important to talk about that is because many of our other dealers and guys that own fence companies around the country have these incredible large presence in towns where they have fence signs all over the place, trucks going everywhere, but nobody knows anything about like where they would go if they wanted to give you a check, you know?
Right.
So when you open up a fence store like this, it's like, you know, you already have instant name recognition because you've been in town for that long. So how's that store been going as far as just people walking in, walking out, buying stuff? Like what sells there? Good stuff? Wood? A little bit of everything?
A little bit of everything, yeah.
Yeah.
And to go back to your point, by having that store there, along with all the other marketing and stuff that we do, it just, that high profile location just really helped, just really fire.
Oh yeah, the amount of cars that go through there, and mind you, it's super busy for 6 months a year, and then the other 6 months it's not. At least people that, you know, and the people that know the area avoid that road anyway.
Yeah.
So you have to, which the other day I was actually trying to be one of those people, and then I ended up going past. I went 2 miles out of the way, went like this, and I'm like, there's no way to go around that lake.
No.
So what I want to know, one of the things that's really cool about your business, thanks, that I remember about your history, which I think is really cool, is that well, maybe you too, maybe I don't hear about it, because he gets all the credit. Yeah. All right, so you guys are famous for 3 fun aftermarket products. You have the Rook, you have Liquid Sunshine, and then you have the Quick Rail. Is that what you guys call it, Quick Rail?
Instant Rail.
Instant Rail.
Handy Rail.
Handy Rail.
Yeah.
So can you give me a little story about why you did those things and whose idea they were and how it's worked out?
I'm going to go with the Rook one. So my wife Christy was away on a trip, and we had this conversation with one of the suppliers about these parts, and I was trying to get better pricing, and it never came about. So she went away, and I had some time to myself, and I decided to mess around with this thing. So I took a toilet paper roll and some lined paper and some Scotch tape. She comes back from her weekend trip, and I'm saying, "Hey, look what I did." She looks at me like, "What the hell is that?"
Was it like a plunger
Kind of.
with a piece of toilet paper?
So I show it to her, and you know, this and that. So I get on the computer, and mind you, the internet was just forming up.
Yeah.
So I found this guy in India. His name was Samil. So I gave the idea to him, and he had this SLA, just like, I don't know, almost like plaster of Paris.
Yeah.
So he sent me a couple of them. And I was telling him last night we were having dinner. So I'd call over there, and he'd answer the phone. I'd say, "Hey, Samil, how you doing?" He's like, "Tell me." That's what he would say. "Tell me." So that didn't work out. So we ended up finding a New Jersey manufacturer and bought the dies and everything like that. And you know,
this is like 14 years ago. Like
it's a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, you were.
I'm bad with years, but it's been a while.
Way out. When you're older, like I am, you're good with years.
Shortly after we met with San Antonio.
Yeah. So the Rook is, for those who don't know, you can search it on Google or go to their website, Dennisville Fence.
TheRookPostmount.com.
TheRookPostmount.com. It's this awesome, insert that goes on a 1 5/8 or 2-inch pipe, that you can then do a flange mount or a drive mount, and then sleeve a 5x5 or a 4x4 over it, and have enough meat to drill into it if you want to put brackets on it. And it was way ahead of its time, especially the way it collapsed and all that stuff.
Right.
I've used them many times myself. So that was pretty cool, and you got that off the ground. And, But was it just because of your intellectual curiosity and your need, or was it also kind of like a little entrepreneurial stimulation that you were trying to develop, something else, because you're going to be bored selling fence? Not that I know anything about that concept.
It was that, and also part of anger because we had a conversation with that guy that didn't go so well. So
The supplier.
So it kind of pissed me off a little bit, and it was just like a little bit of a challenge. So I said, "All right,
okay,
here we go."
Well, good for you, because it went on to be great, and I think today it's doing pretty well. And I imagine it gives you guys some nice.
It's still relevant.
Yeah,
even after all that time.
Yeah, and you've outsourced it, and I mean, I know a lot of people distribute it. So, all right, so that's the Rook, and then how about Liquid Sunshine? Why don't you explain what that is?
All right, so I'm going to take this one too.
How about it?
So at the Villa store, it's so close to all these beach towns, and for years and years, people always have these outdoor shower kits. So they would come in, and I would be, inside working the phones and sitting at the counter, dealing with customers for like retail sales. And they'd come in and say, "Hey, I have this shower kit I want to do, 4x4, 4x6, whatever the case may be." And at the time, a lot of things were done manually. You know, we didn't have QuickBooks or, you know, different software programs where we could pump out quotes real quick. So literally, I would be standing there at the counter for like 45 minutes working this thing out with these people, and it was like $450, and I'm like, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
So I basically had like Microsoft Publisher or whatever, and I drew like little squares and made the diagonal gate and just priced it out and, you know, costed it out. So had like 2 or 3 options. So I had the little paper, brochure or whatever. People would come in, they're like, I'm going to get a shower quote. I said, oh, okay, here you go. There's like, da-da-da. And they said, okay, we'll take that one.
Yeah.
I was like, what? And then it happened again and again and again. And then this was like in the infancy of the shop in the back room where we had the router and all the inventory, and it just went fast. And then
So the interesting thing about that, and I think it's
and also they were with routed posts.
They were at the time, yeah.
Yeah.
But because to me, it's like, when did it go from being just 2 sections of fence and a gate,
Right.
to an actual finished product?
Yeah.
And once you made it into a finished product,
Like a kit.
yeah. That's when it just changes the whole thing. Then now you have something to sell instead of like a solution if someone just.
Yeah.
So what happened was you guys rode the wave of what, you know, inevitably has become, you know, as omnipresent at the beaches in the Jersey Shore as, you know, as railing around a deck.
Right.
So every single house pretty much has some sort of outdoor shower enclosure. So you went on, you built that, you built some other distribution. I see you're in some of the box stores. I see you guys have like 5 models of them out front at the 47 store.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So what we did is, like, we were doing the routed posts all the time. So, you know, end post, line post, corner post, and all that jazz. It got a little bit confusing. So what I said was, like, you know, it'd be so much easier if we just had a smooth vinyl sleeve and we could just use a bracket just like we did with railing. So then, you know, with the Rook, that gave us the opportunity to work with the injection molding, you know, and then so we got that bracket made, and then we started using welded post and plates to bolt the post down with the Rook, so the sleeves for the showers could get up mounted on top of concrete.
So everything was fitting together. You got the Rook sail and the Liquid Sunshine and the fence.
Right. So that fence and gate, that 4 sections of fence, 4 posts, 1 section of fence, and a gate and the hardware was like $250. When we put it in the kit, we can now sell it for $500.
Exactly.
Or $600 because the perceived value of what it was more than.
Well, you made it into something instead of like this, you know, kind of like a parts and pieces thing. It's a difference between buying 2x4s and 1x6s versus buying a panel of fence. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's gone on to be a really nice business. And do you guys keep all these little parts of the business as part of the Dennisville Fence operation, or do you have other companies that manage this?
We have a separate LLC that
all the fun stuff goes in.
Yeah.
All the innovative
Just
stuff.
so the bucket, you know.
Yeah,
is a
you can
separate
see
bucket.
it. Yeah, it's more fun. And then what about the InstaRail, the quick rail? Or
I'm going to let Earl explain that.
oh, come on.
He's more of the intellectual guru. I'm operations on the Dennisville Fence side, and we actually had a conversation about this on the way up. So he's the idea guy. I make sure that the core business is running straight, and then when he has the idea, our team basically gets together, and then we come up with how we're going to execute it and formulate it and build it.
You have to have an idea guy, but you're just as important. I have a whole team of people. Laura's laughing; she knows that story all too well. But yeah, you're nothing without that. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's the Lennon and McCartney thing, or the Elton John and the other guy thing.
No, and literally we talk about it.
The drummer that they don't know his name.
Whoever writes Elton John songs,
I mean, we do talk about it. We're cognizant of it, and really like to discuss it because I think it keeps things real.
That's awesome. I mean, because from an outside looking in, I know, because one of my next questions, of course, is going to be, how do you guys get along? But obviously that works.
It does. Yeah.
So
we get along real well.
We complement each other very well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, and you could tell big time. So how do you tell a little story on the rail?
All right. So this guy, his name John Munyon, and he was like an old school kind of like welder fabricator guy. He drove race cars, and our grandfather drove stock cars years ago, like in local South Jersey racetracks.
Well, he's a fence guy, right?
Yeah, so
something to do.
And they're familiar with that stuff, like welding and engines and things like that. So somehow or another, he came in one day and he wanted to show us this adjustable railing, and I said, okay. So we looked at it. I'm like, man, this thing's awesome. So came back again a little bit, and you know, at that point I showed him the Rook thing, and he was like, you know, you show me your toys, I'll show you my toys, and we got along real well because we had a lot of things in common. So, you know, I did an installation video with him in our Dennisville Hall office after we did some renovations. So we did that, you know, I kind of coined it Instant Rail, and then he ended up getting sick and getting cancer.
Oh.
So probably about 2 years after all this transpired, he passed away. And maybe like 6 months after he passed, I reached out to his wife, and she was a really nice lady, and we got along real well. And I asked her, I said, you know, what's going on? What are you doing here? And she's like, you know, blah, blah, blah. So we ended up talking, and we ended up buying it from her.
Oh, good.
Bought the intellectual property, totally, all the equipment,
Must have
the
felt
shop.
good,
Well, his whole welding company.
Yeah.
He had a company, and the idea of the Instant Rail was part of the company and the intellectual property that came with the company.
Wow, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so, and not many people do, but we acquired everything.
Oh, good for you.
Well, mind you, his version and the current version.
Yeah, it's very different.
But you know what's amazing though? It's just sometimes you need to like just see something so rough, and then your experience then just takes you from there. Like because you know what you're looking at, and this is a matter of like how it would be adaptable, because it's a unique product that essentially is you describe it as an adjustable rail just for a small 2-step or 3-step?
3, 4, 5.
Okay.
Yeah, just like 3 foot, 4 foot, and 5 foot.
And it racks and pivots and locks, right?
It goes literally from like 0 degrees level to like 37 degrees on a rake.
And what's the website that people would look at for that one?
That's instantrail.com.
Good job. See, we're figuring this out.
Now, one thing about this though, it's kind of an interesting story, because by the time I said, man, you really got something here, it was like version 3.
Yeah.
So he came with the first one, which is different. I'm like, yeah, it looks good, da da da. And so he went back to his shop, you know, and his shop's behind his house. So he's out there tinkering and wrenching and stuff like that. And he comes back with version 2, and then version 3. I'm like, man, I think you really got something.
Yeah.
But it was really cool to see it, you know, progress along the way.
I know a lot of people that have used it really, really like it. The challenge is finding the niches for those people that have that specific need. And I joked with you over, you know, at one point I think I saw you at that trade show over at the beach, and I was trying to describe to you my in-laws' house in Pennsylvania. They had like this old, you know, 80-year-old house with a 4-step cement, old-fashioned driveway, or not driveway, stairs, and a little landing, and then they had like a black piece of pipe that was literally installed in 1947 or something, and it went around like about 3 feet, 3 feet, 3 feet, and then went down. And when you have something like that set up and it rots and falls and breaks and goes, there's no guy you can call around the corner to replace that thing that was built in 1947. No. And we literally ended up, because we couldn't find a good solution this is maybe 8 years ago, we literally built an entire deck platform, like out of, you know, composite, and then put we ended up building over this pad and this stairs because we didn't have a solution. So I think it's a great product, and I think that the opportunity with that product is to get into those like really densely populated areas like Delaware County, Pennsylvania, you know, where there's a lot of row homes. Those people really need that product, but they have to see it. So, just a basic question: how would you describe your relationship with Active Yards over the years? It started with us.
Outstanding. I mean, you know, when I think when everything got started, it was like in the infancy stage, and it was almost like a dream. You know, and now, you know, things are evolving. You know, everyone matures. The product line gets fine-tuned. I don't know. I think it's amazing, and especially our relationship. You know, it's definitely unique, but I mean, it's I would say it couldn't be any better. It's
really funny too, because I appreciate you guys have been awesome, and you brought so much value to our group. When everybody here say that, you agree with that? Yeah. I mean, you're kind of the go-to person because obviously your proximity, but also your availability. So I know we all appreciate, you know, what you've done for us over the years.
And we love to be involved because, you know, we're always in the trenches with the day-to-day fence stuff, and you know, it's nice to go and be creative and be able to give some feedback based on real practical experience.
And other people and all that. It's funny because we've known each other for a long time and we've done a lot of business together. It wasn't like Active Yards was just like a home run that we just were gonna bang. It took a couple of years to get it up and running, a lot of effort on all of our parts. But the past several years have been awesome. And as we knew, once you get aligned, the potential is it skyrockets, and that's the challenge. And we've had a lot of success with dealers all around the country with that, but we're especially proud of what you guys have done and what you've contributed.
Well, for you to be proud of us, everybody in this room should be proud of themselves because everybody does an integral part. Becky,
absolutely,
and a lot of unsung heroes in the back, and all your drivers and everything. And I can speak from first person experience. Everybody has their issues, everybody has their delays. You guys make it a point to bend over backwards to make sure and guarantee that we, as your customer, are the first served, and you guys always take second cake.
Yeah.
And I've seen that time and time again with many individuals throughout your company. So, you guys deserve a round of applause. You really do.
Well, how about that?
So, yeah. Nice. Really do.
Good job, Rob.
Yeah.
Talking to you, Sue. The years. You've spent a lot of time in the Active Yards dealer network world. So I just saw. Well, first I got a report from my boss to say, Earl rolled in at my house last night, in Vermont, or something like that. And then I see on Facebook that you had a little tour of New England. So tell me tell me why, because I know it's just because our business is so awesome and fun.
PG rated.
Yeah, the PG part of it.
So
you visited a couple guys up in New England.
So we're driving to New England, and we ended up on a highway that we didn't expect to be on.
95?
So,
no, I'm just kidding.
No, it was a different one to trying to get around Boston. So I see on the map Worcester, and I'm like, I think Ronnie's in Worcester. So I said to my wife, we're going to stop in there and see him. So we go in and we say hello, and it's like 10:30 in the morning.
This is Ronnie at Spalding.
Yeah. He's like, you want a beer? I'm like, nah, man, I'm good. I got to drive. How about a glass of scotch? I'm like, yeah, drive. So I ended up having a beer with him and had a nice talk, and we went on our way, and it was really nice.
Because we've known him for, I remember you, me, and him being together in Florida in 2002. We've known him for a long time. Yeah. What would you say are things you're most proud of that you guys have done in the business?
For me, the entrepreneurial, patent, intellectual property stuff. That's but again, without the core business, there's none of that.
Yeah, right.
So it's all relative. It all plays off one another.
Yeah. What about you? I'm proud.
I'm really proud of everything. I'm not a prideful person. I like to put, and I haven't always been this way. I like to make sure that I put other people before me to make sure that other people are being satisfied financially, emotionally, things like that. I'm really proud of my brother. I'm proud of the business that we've generated. I'm very proud of how our dad looks at us.
Yeah.
Being fully retired, and he looks at us, and he went from 8 people on payroll.
Yeah, when you were there and I started, it was like between 8 and 10.
So 8 to 10, and right now we're hovering around 50, 55, depending on seasonality.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's super. What's your grandfather's name?
Earl.
Oh, is it really? Wow.
So my grandfather was junior, my dad's a third, and I'm the fourth.
Oh, wow. So Earl Collins Jr. would be super, super proud of you guys to see what what you guys have done with his business. That he started out of necessity because he needed to make money, and you guys went on to it.
That's
obviously
still the goal, Pete.
Well, I know, but to have the platform that he actually, he started it because he needed a job.
We had a huge head start,
especially in that time of 1942. It was starting a business. And then to even imagine what you guys have done, it would just be amazing. And of course, your father being so lucky to actually see it. Yeah. And you guys, have taken a good thing and made it great, which is something to be proud of. So thank you so much for taking the time to come visit us today. Thank you for watching the show. You can follow the Fence Show at fenceshow.com. You can follow these guys. If you want to learn more about Dennisville Fence, you got the DennisvilleFence.com, right?
Yep.
That's enough for now. I know you have 5 more websites. Until next time, thank you for watching and listening. Have a great day. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Could have talked all day with you guys.